We have looked at Tim Vigil on this channel very extensively. So today, I wanted to cover Joe Vigil, Tim Vigil's brother. I have one issue of Dog. I think there's 2 or 3 issues of Dog, which is sort of his book that he was doing. Pretty much at the same time as Faust, maybe a little after. So yeah, let's just take a look at this real quick. It's pretty much what you'd expect of, the brother of Tim Vigil. There are some cases where I actually like Joe Vigil's art slightly better. But, man, they are both very, very gifted artists. Man, I love that face right there. And the splatter. I really appreciate an artist who can do good splatter. Especially when you do comics like this. Oops, skipped a page. I love his perspective. In a previous video, we looked at Tim Vigil's perspective, and it's actually very similar. It's, it's buildings, it's like blocks with a little bit of very small amount of detail. Because really the figure is the most important part to both the Vigil brothers. Man, look at that arm there. I don't think his anatomy is as good as Tim Vigil's, but man, it's still great. You gotta remember, Joe Vigil is doing this on his own. I don't believe there's a writer on this book. I believe that he drew and wrote this. So he's not only drawing this, but he's also writing it as well. Look at that close up there. I love the the way that he sort of gets like a very aged feel to the area that he's in, like a very you can tell we're in a very rundown part of town, It's so interesting because I see a lot of of course you see a lot of Tim Vigil, but you also see like James O'Barr in here. I don't know if James O'Barr was looking at Tim Vigil's work. Well, they actually came out around the same time, so I imagine it's just like one of those things where you're doing something, and it just just so happens to very have a lot in common with your peers, which is very cool. I love this drawing here. Just a great deltoid going into those triceps. And then you got that bone for the elbow coming down. It's just great stuff. I also love that guy's dead, and you can clearly tell like the gesture. It's very gesturally. Like there's movement, but the movement is representing death, which I very much do enjoy. I even enjoy the background. Draws great motorcycles too. Motorcycles, I've never drawn a motorcycle, but it seems like one of those things that's very difficult to draw. Man, look at that panel there. Just so many great panels here. Yeah, look at that glass too. Like the glass is shattering. And that guy's, facial reaction says it all. Great, great stuff. I definitely do think that Joe Vigil is as good as Tim Vigil. I do. But he's good in a different way. But I love the proportions. I just love the anatomy. It's just so great. just looking at somebody who's a master. And I mean, that's what we do on this channel is we look at comic book masters, we look at fine art masters, and we sort of just kind of understand what they're doing, you know? I love that gesture of that guy going back and the legs going up. But you can definitely tell like there's a very amateur feel to how he draws the legs, but it still looks great. It still looks amazing, and the amount of time. I mean, this guy's a master at this point, but I would definitely assume that that would probably be style. And I wonder, you know, I've heard that Tim Vigil takes a long time to draw his pages. You know, how long does Joe Vigil take to draw his pages, I wonder. Man, I also love that, like, just slaps that dude in the face and his head goes through, like, it looks like maybe a jukebox. I'm not sure. But it's still cool. Yep. That's a controversial panel these days. Man. Great panel. I mean, just the anatomy. I love the anatomy. By the way, I just want to go back to, I mean, look at those trap muscles on the back there. Just amazing trap muscles. I'm absolutely obsessed with anatomy, especially when somebody can draw anatomy so dynamically. Because anatomy's so difficult, you know, it's forms on top of forms. But man, it looks great. Great stuff. For sure. Man, look at that. That seems like a Tim Vigil drawing. But it's a Joe Vigil drawing, not a Tim Vigil drawing. But you can definitely see that these guys were probably, you know, inspiring each other. Man, what an interesting page of just like a bunch of effects. Great anatomy there in the stomach. I just love these panels. I wish I had the other issues, but I don't. Yeah, look at that. I love those buildings, and like he's standing. It's just, that's a great composition right there. I really do like that composition there. But yeah, that is Joe Vigil. I know he has a story in the back of Faust. I think it's Faust #1. I'll have to pull that out again at some point and kind of look over that. I know we've looked over it on the channel very briefly, but I would definitely like to delve more into Joe Vigil's artwork because I actually love his artwork just as much as I love Tim Vigil's. It's different, but yet it's very similar, which I really dig. I really like this very... I don't know if it's like the proportions being off or that it's so, you know, that like it's hyper like stylized anatomy or what it is, but I just enjoy this artwork. I mean, I look at him very similarly to the way that I look at Tim Vigil. You know, it's comics that you look at and you just get inspired and want to make comics. So if you've never read this before, if you've never seen this before, you should definitely pick it up. This is a cool comic. I really enjoy it. So, yeah, it's Joe Vigil.